What is up, guys? Jake from J Reacts here, and today I'm going to be doing pretty much my reaction and analysis on the fight that transpired last night between Jake Paul and Tommy Fury. Now, anyone that's like old supporter of this channel and seen old videos of me predicting and reacting to the YouTube boxing events know that I am not particularly a fan, well, that's putting it lightly, of the idea of YouTubers just coming into the sport of boxing and making a mockery of the sport. One of them is Jake Paul, who is a YouTube sensation, and he's got a huge following in America and all over the world. And about, I think back in 2018, he decided to take up boxing, and eventually when he went through some YouTubers, ended up like just going up against sports personalities like basketball players, retired MMA fighters, and you know, like, credit to him, he was training very hard, just making that his full-time passion. And, you know, he strung quite a few wins against, you know, retired MMA fighters, basketball players and YouTubers. So people with either no level boxing experience before going to the sport, or very little, considering including the MMA fighters. And Tommy Fury, who is part of the Fury family, older brother Tyson Fury, who is heavyweight champion of the world, his dad, John Fury, former boxer, is a long history of boxing within that family. And he's also known for going on the, you know, Love Island, being a, you know, a bit of a personality on social media, etc. And he's a professional boxer as well, beforehand having a record of 8 wins, no losses, 4 knockouts, so 50% boxing knockout percentage. And then this is a fight that's been on the cards for like 2 years, and I didn't watch it personally because I don't like injecting money into this sort of thing. I just don't like the idea. And you also got the likes of Logan Paul, KSI, some guy, Nissan Gibb, KSI's younger brother Deji, who had a boxing exhibition with Floyd Mayweather. Not fair enough. Obviously, you know, it's a big payday for anyone who does that, so, you know, you'd be stupid to turn it down. And the fight transpired last night, and Tommy Fury walked away with a split decision victory. Now, after watching the highlights and the full fight, I did analyse the whole thing. You know, you can just tell that it was a huge step up in class, because even though Jake Paul fought former UFC champions, likes of Anderson Silva, but it's just, and Tyron Woodley, like, yes, they need to learn all aspects of fighting, but they're not stuck on one martial arts through and through. Well, if they do, Anderson Silva, he's a kickboxer, a Muay Thai fighter and a Jiu-Jitsu athlete. Whereas Tyron Woodley, his main experience from fighting came from wrestling. And you put Jake Paul in there with someone who's been doing boxing for most of their life and has got a family that is rich in history and like being boxers, like his father, former boxer, older brother, like I said, world champion. The difference in class was evident on display. Now, first of all, them commentators and that judge that thought that Jake Paul had won that fight, honestly, just get in the fucking bin. Like, you ain't got a clue on like how to score a fight. Like, how you would have Jake Paul, anyone would have Jake Paul winning that fight. You don't have a clue on how boxing works. Jake Paul lost that fight, and, you know, fair play. After the fight, he said, you know, he had to take on the chin, etc. So, and he didn't make any excuses. So, you know what, fair play to that guy. And you know what, considering that he was fine, a huge step up in class in terms of boxing, he actually did okay. He did okay. Like, he landed some good shots. He managed to get a knockdown at the end of the fight, in the last round. And, you know, he managed to stay in for the full distance. But like, aside from that knockdown that he had in the last round and that point deduction, I think it was in the 6th from Tommy Fury, Jake Paul lost every single round. Every round. And he had a point deduction in one of them rounds as well. So if you're scoring that fight, that should have been 76, 73, or possibly 74. That is the most. But one of the judges had put Jake Paul ahead. Like, what the fuck are you watching? What are you analysing? What do you think wins fights? Tommy Fury was landing the more shots, the cleaner shots, throwing more, and he made Jake Paul miss so many times at a higher landing accuracy compared to Jake Paul. How anyone can have him winning that fight is just beyond me. But there looks like there could be a rematch. Well, there definitely will be a rematch because there was a clause in the contract that if Jake Paul had lost the fight, he would get a rematch. But if Tommy lost, he wouldn't have got the rematch. But he came out and said, like, if he'd have lost that fight, he would have retired. And I could understand that perfectly. But in terms of what is possibly next for these guys, I feel that if Jake Paul is to lose the rematch, that could possibly be the end of his fighting career. Because before this fight got announced, there was possible talks about who else he wanted to fight. Like, there was talks that he wanted to be a world champion, he wanted to fight Canelo, and I'm just like, look, if you don't beat a guy like Tommy Fury, like, he's a decent boxer, but he is practically a professional novice. Like, he has just fought journeymen most of his career. Like, I don't think he's fought anyone that's had more wins than losses on his resume. Like, he hasn't beaten anyone impressive. And for me personally, I thought Tommy should have stopped that fight. That fight should have not gone the distance, because I saw how Jake Paul performed, but the amount of times, like, this is something I see in amateur boxing, the amount of times, like, he would, like, miss a shot, or he gets hit, and then he just spins, turn his back. Like, that's one of the first things you don't do in a fight. That's what I got taught early on. You always have to keep your eye on the opponent. Never turn your back. And Jake Paul did that a couple of times in the fight. So I think Tommy Fury should have stopped that fight. It should not have gone the distance. And whereas Jake Paul just didn't take a lot of risks, to be honest. He was panicking a bit. And I saw towards like the 5th or 6th, he was breathing heavy. And like, that is what happens when you just take a huge step up in class. Now, if Jake Paul was to win, well, he's going to have to like turn it around massively in the training camp, and he really needs to put in a performance of his life. But you know what? I really respect Jake Paul a lot more than when I did a few years ago when he started. You know, like, but first things first, to get into the ring, first of all, and just exchange punches with another man, you are going to need a huge set of bollocks on you. Like, I mean, boxing, for me, is the toughest sport, physically and mentally. Like, I mean, mentally, getting in the ring and exchanging leather with a guy that's going to be trying to knock your head off. And this is a sport where people have died. And he does take the sport very seriously, to like the degree of how hard he trains. But now, after losing to a guy like Tommy Fury, he's thinking of that he could be a world champion, he can go and fight the world-class fighters. Like, his mentality's got to change on that completely. Like, you are not going to fight a top-level contender or a former world champion. You are not going to fight any of them and come out looking the same. Like, there is just no chance of that. Absolutely no chance. So, he is going to have to rectify this if he wants to continue on, and he's going to have to really step up his performances if he wants, well, whatever he thinks he can be, like the world-class fighters. You need to step up your level big time. And Tommy, the same thing. Because, like, there were times where he was a bit sloppy in that fight. He got caught with a few shots. You know, getting knocked down. He was off balance, etc. As a whole, like, no one was completely outstanding. But what this fight just shows is that someone who is not at the highest of levels, like Tommy Fury, who is really... He could be an international champion, perhaps, or a European champion. But in terms of world champion status for Tommy Fury, he is quite far off. He really is. Like, he's got a great team around him. Like, you know, his family. So, you know, they're going to have his best interest and pick the right fights. But he needs to step up in class and put in better performances if he wants to get to that level. And then everything I'm seeing after the fight transpire, you know, like the likes of KSI, just please shut the fuck up. Like, you don't take the... Jake Paul, I can give a lot more respect for, because he has been committed to boxing for a few years now, and he's been getting, like, proper training, so he has improved dramatically. Like, you can't be have that many years of experience in the sport with the top training that he has been receiving and not improve dramatically. KSI takes long bloody layoffs. Like, he does so many things. Like, boxing is not his #1 priority. So, like, KSI, just shut the fuck up, lad. Honestly, like, Tommy Fury would even do you in. Like, Jake Paul is a better fighter than KSI, and he managed to, like, in a way, outclass him. But KSI ain't got no chance against Fury. No chance. He ain't going to win that. KSI especially, I think, would be stopped within 4 or 5 rounds. 100%. I mean, he's getting top training as well, but he's not been doing boxing through and through. And then another thing that pissed me off of that fight last night, Logan Paul, who I think is an absolute piece of shit. He's a scumbag of a human being. Like, I mean, all the things he's done, like getting chance after chance, he scammed his fans out of millions of dollars with his NFT bullshit. So I don't know too much about that. And there's another thing I can say right now, which I'm not going to say because it's a bit below the belt, that he done in the past, and he was just fucking taking the piss out of the Fury family and ringside, showing a lack of respect. He is a piece of shit, and like Logan Paul, scumbag of a human being. And then again, do I expect any less? Like, I mean, that is a guy who fought, granted, greatest fighter of this generation, but who was 40 pounds heavier, almost knocked you out cold and kept you up on your feet. If it wasn't for his sportsmanship, like, you would have been on your arse in that fight with Mayweather. But a rematch, back to the fight, a rematch looks like it will happen. And I think either way, whoever loses this rematch, they're going to be in shit street. They're going to be done. I've got to be honest. Like, Tommy Fury can't beat a YouTuber. Like, his thoughts of going for a world title in the future is probably going to diminish big time. And if Jake Paul was to lose, then perhaps that could be the end of his so-called boxing career. If Tommy Fury wins a rematch and he continues in his pursuit for a world title, he has to step up in class. And the same goes for Jake Paul as well. But, like I said, if a rematch happens, I'm not going to be watching it. Like, it's not something I'll buy into. Like, if I want to watch a fight, I want to watch a world title fight between 2 world-class fighters. I want to watch a boxing event where I'm seeing young and up-and-coming fighters who are hungry to do well in the sport. Because boxing is a poor man's sport for a reason. The amount of people that have come from rough areas, rough scenarios, where it could be life and death, and boxing is their way out. To be disciplined, put all their negative energy into something good, which is kind of something that I did in the past. Like, I was in a deep hole, bad mental place, and boxing just provided me with that discipline. It made me a better person, more respectful. But that is what boxing offers. And there's no other sport than combat sports that teaches you that. Really taking people from rough parts of the world and just improving their life dramatically. But physically, mentally, and financially. Like, those are the sort of fights I want to see. Like, not this bullshit. I just don't enjoy watching this. I was happy in a way that Jake Paul lost the fight, because, like, if someone that's been doing this, as I say, their whole life, can't beat someone like Jake Paul who's been doing it for a few years, and there's a lot of YouTube, I don't really watch his content, but from what clips I've seen, it's like some cringy content, that I would have lost all faith in the sport. But thankfully, he ended up getting through, getting the win. But the rematch happens, Fury has to finish him. He has to. But no, that fight shouldn't be something that goes the distance. It just shouldn't. But we will see what happens in the rematch. This has been Jay from A&J Reacts, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this content. Please like it if you have. Comment your thoughts on the fight and whether you think there will be a rematch and what you think will happen in the rematch. And if you enjoy this content, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so you can be alerted whenever we upload new content. And don't forget to check out Instagram and TikTok. Join the A&J family. Much love. Take care.